Hello friends, my name is Sushant Mani and today I am going to tell you about the constructors, specifically speaking constructors in Java. So without wasting time, let's begin the video. So constructors are basically a block of code which can be used to create, they can be used to implement the values, or we can say they can be used to assign the values for the variables. These variables are passed in the class. That means outside the methods. Methods are totally different from the constructor, but the developers, the beginners who start their coding journey usually are confused between the constructors and functions. Constructors are a block of code which can be used to initialize the values by using when the object is being created. The object are created when the instance of a class is being created. This class, each and every class we have to create an object, but the main class, that is the main function, it is not required to create an object because the compiler automatically creates an object for it. So constructors are used to assign the values, or we can say are used to assign the values for the parameters which are declared in the class. So there are in total three types of constructors. Namely, first one is parameterized constructor, second one is default constructor, and third one is copy constructor. And the constructors, before moving on towards those types, let's first discuss some rules for writing a constructor. First of all, the constructor should have the same name as that of class. It is a rule because it will be, because we will not able to differentiate between classes and constructors. Classes differentiate between constructors and functions if we do not mention the same name as that of a class name. So it is very mandatory to write the name of the constructor. It is mandatory to assign the name of the class for the constructor. Second rule of the constructor is that we should assign it inside the main class of our code. That means we cannot write our constructor outside the class. And the third rule that the constructor should be that we cannot create any variable, or we cannot declare any variable inside of constructor. That means we have to declare variable outside of it. So these were all about the constructors and its differentiation from the function. Now let's move towards the types of constructor. So beginning with default constructor. Default constructors are those constructors which are not required to pass the parameters. And they can be automatically called when we do not define it. And these constructors are overridden if we write our default constructor in the class by the compiler. That means the compiler do not create a new constructor, but it overrides our constructor and run it in its compiling process. So this was all about the default constructor. Now let's move toward the next constructor, that is parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor are those constructors in which we pass the parameters. They are usually very important because when we declare the values in the class, then we declare the variables in the class without any value. Then these parameterized constructors are a big help. They help us to initialize these constructors. They help us to initialize these attributes and help us to pass these values to the further process. So this was all about the parameterized constructor. So let's move towards the next constructor, that is copy constructor. Constructors are those constructors which are called with the help of objects. That means whenever we initialize the object, then the copy constructor is being passed with it, and it not only is just passed with it, but it also have the parameters of the object with whom it is passed. So this was all about the constructors, copy constructors, parameterized constructor and default constructor. Now I will tell you about one important theory which is related to constructor, that is whenever we declare a main method, or we can say whenever we declare a class, the constructor is being automatically called by the compiler. It is by default the Java developers have created such a logic that whenever we run our class program, then the constructor is being automatically called at least once during its process, because it is very much required. If the constructors are not being called, then our program will not able to run properly, or there will be some kind of error. So this was all about the constructors, and I hope you like my video. Thank you.